I need to start with an apology. If I'm right, I may have just doomed you and everyone you know. I hope that's not the case. I pray I'm wrong. But if I'm not, then I am truly, deeply sorry. What I've done cannot be undone, and the consequences are beyond anything I could have imagined. For the past 17 years, I've worked as an immunologist. My life's work has been dedicated to understanding the immune system, and I've gained some recognition for my research. But my motivation wasn't just scientific curiosity, it was personal. Disease has taken so much from me. My mother died of tuberculosis when I was just 5 years old. I still remember her coughing fits, the way her body weakened until she could barely move. My best friend lost his battle with leukemia when we were teenagers, and now my father is fighting stage 4 lung cancer. To me, disease isn't just a natural phenomenon. It's an enemy, a cruel, relentless force that steals lives without mercy. That's why I devoted my career to fighting it. I didn't just want to cure one disease. I wanted to destroy them all. I wanted to create something that would wipe out the greatest threats to humanity in one fell swoop. And I thought I had succeeded. But now, I fear I've made a terrible, irreversible mistake. Let me explain. The human immune system is a marvel of nature. It's a complex network of cells and proteins that work together to protect us from invaders like bacteria, viruses, and even cancer. But for the immune system to do its job, it first needs to recognize the threat. This happens when immune cells detect specific markers on the surface of pathogens. Once identified, the invaders are destroyed. But some diseases have evolved to hide from the immune system. They cloak themselves in a molecule called sialic acid, which acts like a disguise. It's like they're wearing a mask that says, "I belong here." This is why diseases like influenza, certain bacteria, and even cancer are so hard to treat. They trick the immune system into leaving them alone. My breakthrough came when I discovered a way to strip away that disguise. I developed a treatment using an enzyme called sialidase, which removes sialic acid from cells. The idea was simple: expose the pathogens and let the immune system do the rest. But there was a catch. Sialidase isn't picky. It doesn't just target the bad cells, it attacks everything. So, I needed a way to deliver it precisely. That's where the measles virus came in. Measles has a unique ability to fuse infected cells together, creating large clumps called syncytia. I modified the virus to carry sialidase, hoping it would target only the harmful cells. In theory, as the virus spread, it would strip away the sialic acid from the pathogens, exposing them to the immune system. It worked perfectly in lab tests, on rodents at least. But when I tried to get the treatment approved for human trials, I was shut down. The risks were too high, they said. I was furious. My father was dying, and I knew this could save him. So, I took matters into my own hands. I went to the hospital where my father was being treated. He was asleep, his body weakened by the cancer. The machines around him beeped steadily, a grim reminder of how little time he had left. I hesitated for a moment, staring at the syringe in my hand. This was it, my life's work, condensed into a single dose. I injected him quickly, my hands trembling. He didn't even wake up. Satisfied, I left the hospital and headed back to the lab. The rats needed feeding, and I wanted to check on them. But when I arrived, I froze. The cages were a nightmare. The rats were no longer recognizable. Their bodies had liquefied, reduced to a gruesome, gelatinous sludge. Bones and tissue floated in a pool of blood and dissolved flesh. The stench was unbearable. I stumbled back, my mind racing. What had I done? I had been so focused on targeting the pathogens that I hadn't considered what would happen if the treatment went wrong. The sialidase wasn't specific. It had stripped away the sialic acid from every cell it touched, healthy or not. The virus had mutated. It wasn't just targeting the bad cells anymore. It was destroying everything. Panicked, I rushed back to the hospital. My heart pounded as I ran through the halls, ignoring the confused stares of the staff. When I reached my father's room, I stopped dead in my tracks. The scene was horrifying. My father had woken up screaming. Blood poured from his eyes, nose, and mouth. His skin had turned translucent, revealing the veins and muscles beneath. His hands clawed at the air, as if trying to escape his own body. I could see his organs shifting unnaturally beneath his skin, as though they were melting. He reached out to me, his voice a gurgling whisper, "Help me." And then it happened. His hand fell from his arm, splattering onto the floor with a sickening wet sound. His body collapsed in on itself, his torso caving inward. His organs spilled out, a grotesque slurry of liquefied tissue. The machines around him flatlined, their alarms drowned out by the horrified screams of the nurses. I stood there, paralyzed. This was my fault. I had done this. The nurses and doctors rushed in, but I knew there was nothing they could do. One of them grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the room. I barely registered their words. My ears were ringing, my vision blurring. I stumbled outside and vomited in the flower bed, my body shaking uncontrollably. I didn't know what else to do, so I went home. I'm sitting here now, writing this, trying to make sense of what's happened. But there's one more detail about the measles virus that I didn't mention. It's highly contagious. In unvaccinated populations, it has a 100% infection rate. Not that a vaccine would help anymore. I've modified the virus to the point where a new vaccine would need to be developed. But judging by how fast it worked on my father, I don't think we have that kind of time. Every single person who was in that hospital likely has it now, me included. By tomorrow, hundreds of people will be infected. A week from now, thousands, maybe more, and there's no way to stop it. The virus is airborne, spreading faster than anyone can contain. Hospitals will be overrun. Cities will fall into chaos. And it's all because of me. I can already feel it working inside me. My skin feels wrong, like it's too thin. My vision is blurring, and there's a metallic taste in my mouth. I don't know how much time I have left. I'm writing this as a warning. If you're reading this, it might already be too late. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this doesn't spread. But if it does, I'm so sorry.